Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kyle Corvus Crow, joined at the desk today by Alex Mad Magical Wielden to bring you guys a special game of College League of Legends as the Columbia Cougars out of Columbia, Missouri take on the Lourdes University Grey Wolves out of Sylvania, Ohio. Now, we have a lot of exciting things to talk about with this match as both teams are sitting 3-0 this week. But for any of you newcomers, first, we do want to break down a little bit of why that score is so important in this Swiss format. So to tell us a little bit about that, Magical, break this down how it works.
Yeah, so what we do is we have each region split into four. So we got north, south, east, and west. So all the points of the compass with the BTN, it was split into east and west. But we added in one more just to make it a little bit more interesting with the Peach Bell Conference. But in order for these teams to advance, they need to get a 6-0 or a 5-1 record. They need to make sure that they're maintaining the top of the stands, at least for the traditional conferences, because you want to have the best maintained possible score possible. Then for, say, like the Big Ten Network and for the Peach Belt conferences, the top four teams will be advancing into the playoffs. With the top teams, for those ones, always going into the play-ins, while for the undefeated teams in the traditional, those ones get to go directly in to the championship. They don't have to worry about playing in those play-ins. So you got to make sure that you're doing the best you can, wanting to win every single match, and especially when you have one as important as the one today. If you drop one now, it could be a little bit more detrimental later on.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely. The team that loses today here has to win outright, whereas the team that wins today is actually just one win away, I believe, from making it on through.
Yes.
So that's going to be very important as a stepping stone, as these are two strong teams for this strong conference. They are from the North region, which is arguably the strongest in Collegiate League of Legends in the past couple years. Columbia and Lourdes doing a lot to solidify that with some big roster moves this year. So very excited to see how these two teams play out. And there's a little bit of special backstory with these guys, isn't there, Magical? Because I believe there's some players that have kind of moved around in these rosters between these two schools.
Yeah, I think it was Homecoming, used to be the sub over at Columbia, now being the starting AD carry for Lourdes. So he's going to try to make a name for himself, really wants to show himself. Same with Artemis. He played over at Columbia last year, and the coach, Chilling Walk for Lourdes. All of them a part of the Columbia College department at one point or another, but now it's going to be a bit of a rivalry as both of them sitting high up at the standings. Really great KDAs want to bring it to the table.
Yeah, I've been really hyped for this matchup all week. I believe the Lourdes has the highest KDA in all of collegiate LoL right now.
I think so.
And so Columbia, though, the team to beat, right? The ones that have painted the target on their back. I'm talking a little bit of smack on Twitter as well. We'll get into that a little bit more, but right now we actually have some picks and bans going on.
Yeah, we're already getting pretty deep into it. It's really interesting to look at a lot of that mid lane prioritization coming in, trying to make it so that it's going to be a little bit more difficult. All Arrow playing a lot of Azir throughout the tournament, and Zoe just a staple mid laner.
Oh, absolutely. So a little bit of mid lane focus. Julian, the challenger mid lane, I believe he was top 10 at a couple points throughout his career. I don't know where he's sitting now, but at least at the time of pickup, very strong top 10 challenger mid laner. So definitely just going to try to get him all the priority in the world by taking away the Zoe and the Azir. Well, Lord Say 2 can play at that game. Syndra off the table. And the first pick, Sejuani. No big surprises there.
Yeah, great takeaway from Hiyami. That's been one of his go-tos. Same with the Jarvan, so I would honestly imagine that Lourdes is going to lock that in pretty quickly.
Yep.
Get that into his pockets.
Well, there you go. You have a prophetic eye for this kind of thing. Talia taken up as well. They say the mid lane's getting tight enough already. Going to take away a big priority pick, and we're going to see how Julian responds now.
I'm still surprised to see that Talia drafted this early into everything, because you still have Ryze, you have Malzahar left open. These honestly do pretty decently into the Talia. While the Talia does have a great roaming potential, still want to get yourself a little bit more of a leeway into that mid lane.
Well, Stumpy will be taking the Gnar away for himself. No Jace games today, unfortunately, at least not yet. But, you know, we may see. So solo laner's really not afraid to pick blind, is what I'm seeing here. Orianna, very safe pick, just coming into the Talia. Julian going to take that one away. No big surprises there. And so the bot lane right now, I can imagine going to be a pretty heavy focus for the bans coming out other side of Lourdes, as they do take away Varus as well. So they can really levy a lot onto this AD role for Evan RL. Instead, opt to ban the Jan away. Don't want Dean playing it. Makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, but Dean has a very deep pockets when it comes to his champion pool. He played Brand at one point throughout the tournament. He can really bust out anything you can imagine and much more. So I'd much rather see some maybe a 80 carry bands coming through, something to really try to harp on that instead of going for that Karma. It's a little bit interesting looking at Lourdes' pick ban right now.
Well, Karma, a smart ban if what we were maybe talking about a little bit earlier comes to fruition. You did mention to me that Artemis plays a fair amount of that Shen support, so we'll see if that one comes through as an option. The Camille taken away from Chemo, another one that you said was a high priority for this fella. So Tarek taken away as a support option. Don't want to deal with the Shen perhaps this game. And it will mean that now we're going to see the bot lane take away exactly what's going to be picked up for the side of the Columbia Cougars here.
So now I want to keep my eyes on to Lourdes because they've been playing a lot of Camille, which has already been banned away for Chemo, and then Ornn. Those have been his two go-tos, actually his two only picks throughout the tournament. So maybe he's going to shift it up because with Gnar into the hands of Misty Stumpy, a very powerful top laner, he might need to be a little bit more careful with what he wants to go for, as Columbia just probably going to round out their bot lane. They already know the makings of Varus the Tar coming in from Lourdes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the Ornn, very safe pick in the top lane if that's what they decide to go with, or at least can be very safe. But the Gnar, one of the ones that can very much punish onto that. So we'll see if he goes Comfort or does decide to just try to shake some things up and counter the Gnar. Camille off the table, so not going to be the chance. I like the Braum pick from Dean. There's a lot of good options for the Wombo combo now coming out of the side of this Columbia roster, and a Tristana to just put the bow on top of it and deal the damage throughout. They do opt for the Ornn. On the side of Lourdes University, Sakimo will get that one. Not going to stray too far from the path this time around, and we've got our compositions to talk through now.
Exactly, and I pretty much expected to see that Ornn coming in from Chemo since he's only played the two champions of Camille and Ornn. I would have loved to have seen him try to go for a counter into the Gnar, because Misty Stumpy is very strong. He loves to play with his Gnar. If it's not Jace, it's usually the Gnar. He can play a lot more, but he likes to try to carry a little bit from the top lane, even has that capability of going into the split push if necessary.
Very much so. How does the Ornn interaction work? Does the Braum shield take away the Call of the Forge God? It should block it, right?
Oh yes, it completely does. So that it's actually a massive counter to Ornn. So all you have to do is wherever the Call of the Forge God's coming from, you just put the shield behind you, and then it's gone forever. Never get to see the Billy Goat again.
Yeah, that's pretty big too, considering that we actually saw yesterday a Braum player block the Weaver's Wall coming from Talia, so that's a pretty big use too. He's got double counters on those ultimates, so very heads-up pick from Dean there. I do like it. We'll see, though, how he can weather that storm, because there's a lot of just raw harass damage that he's going to be wanting to use that shield on before any of those big ultimates are coming out, the likes of the Talia, the Varus poke. They do have a lot of long-range harass out of those two particular champions from Lourdes University. So I'm curious to see how the Grey Wolves are going to kind of tap around these fights before they initiate, because with the Braum and some of the other safe play potential coming out of the side of Columbia, this could be a fairly decent roster at baiting some of the bigger engage tools out of Lourdes.
Well, see, that's going to be the thing, is that Columbia have the tools to play safe, but if you look over to Lourdes, they want to play aggressive early on. Talia, amazing at going for the roam. She has the Weaver's Wall. She even can just move really fast into the river when she's near the walls. Top that off with Hyami ping on the Jarvan. Jarvan's well known for how early he can gank, having the flag and drag, going for those initiations really quickly, while Zach's going to need a little bit more levels under his belt if he wants to be more effective. Sure, he can use his dash, but honestly, it's not going to help too much when you have so much range. The Gnar's not going to be able to proc the Permafrost. Neither is Orianna or Tristana, only really Braum and Mega Gnar, which are really small tools if you think about trying to go for that engage. So it's going to be a lot more on Lourdes' early game pressure, trying to dictate the control of the map.
I'm going to put a lot of that onus on Hyami here as that Jarvan the fourth. Get a lot of the early game pressure down for his team and get those lanes to where they need to go, because any one of these winning lanes can really affect snowballing out the game, especially topside, although I don't think we'll see as much action happen there. But if you get the Tristana, the Varus, the Orianna, the Talia, any of these guys rolling, it's not unthought of that they can just turn the game right on its head for the remaining 5 members of the enemy team and just run away with it rampant. So we'll see kind of how that plays out. But I think it's on the jungler, and particularly Hyami here, with the lanes that they've drafted for themselves, just to see how much of an impact he's going to make on this, because I put the burden on him.
Completely agree with you. And throughout this entire tournament, Hyami's actually been performing absolutely amazingly. He has one of the highest KDAs out of all of the junglers in this entire tournament. So if he's able to continue that into the face of adversity, into Columbia College, who are considered to be one of the top teams, in fact, one of the favorites to take the entire tournament, That'd be a great showing. Just come out there, put all this pressure really early with the composition they've drafted, who want to fight early on. They want to have earlier team fights than that of Colombia, who want to try to scale up. They want to get some more items under their belt before they go for the full all-in.
Yeah, and this is something we talked about yesterday in the matchup that was George Mason versus North Carolina State, two of the higher ranked teams there in the Southern region. That no matter who wins out, that was actually George Mason did fall then down to North Carolina State. But we thought kind of no matter who wins out, there's a very strong likelihood that these teams might see each other again towards the end here, as they do kind of both make very strong cases for themselves to get out and into that playoffs run. So it is a big, big matchup to just see who's going to draw first blood here. But we do have to keep in mind that teams this good and teams this much hype around them, this might not be the only chance that they're going to have at each other.
Not at all, and no. It's actually really interesting. I always find it fascinating to look at what the keystones are picked up for each player. And Chemo going with the unsealed spellbook on the Ornn is something that I'm going to keep my eyes on, because he's going to go for the Ignite, which to me says that Hyami wants to go top lane. He wants to try to go for an early gank onto this Gnar, especially when the Gnar's not going to have that many levels, nor is he going to easily have the Mega Gnar available to him.
I think that's a very good point. I think Misty Stumpy here gonna have to realize that and gonna have to adjust his play accordingly, because I don't see Zach necessarily going to be as much on the ball to wait around in the top lane and to try to counter any action that does go on there. I think he's such a proactive player that he's gonna want to find advantages for his team around the map otherwise. And so I think a lot of pressure now on Stumpy to perform in that role. Zach as well has to make the decision, hey, what lanes are important to me to get rolling here? Do we want to put all the eggs in the Julian basket? Is Evan RL the one to take care of? Do we try to snowball Stumpy, get Chemo on the back foot there, and just force out a huge Gnar game? Or is it just going to be, kind of following the story that the lanes tells for him? How prepared are they coming into this? It's a lot that I'm excited to see how it unfolds.
Well, it's always a little bit about the caliber of the players in the team, but also about your opponents when you look at everything. Because looking over towards the side of Lourdes, this is no small task for Colombia to be able to overcome and try to take a nice victory here. Especially with the fact that they have some really great picks like Gnar into the Ornn, Orianna into Talia, even Tristana into Varus will eventually outscale the Varus, so they have a lot of tools in order to try to win out later on.
Yeah, I feel like it is a time bomb type deal, and the good news is that for Lourdes, they have drafted a composition that plays well into the time bomb style, and just not going to be too worried about taking the game on early. They have a lot of tools at their disposal to make that happen. So it is just a matter of actually finding the early game pressure to do it, because you're right, as this game does go on, the later we get, the more favored toward Colombia the just raw champion abilities and champion scaling powers become. So I think they can do it. I think they have the champions at their disposal, but it is going to be tricky to just win outright before 25-30 minutes here.
Well, that's why Lourdes need to play very aggressive. They need to utilize Hyami on this Jarvan, even utilize that Ignite on Chemo this early, but look at this. So many of the lanes already pushing in for Colombia. We're already starting to get quite the advantage across the Rift.
Yeah, I very much think so. So it's always a little hard to tell how these work out. They're doing a good job of pressuring, especially on the bot side from Colombia, just to crash into this tower. But the CS is actually staying pretty even aboard right now. A little favor in the mid lane for Arrow there. And I like actually what I'm seeing here from the jungle roam. Hyami is in the top side jungle of Columbia College. He's leaving some wards, so he'll get spotted exiting. But I really doubt that the members of Columbia are going to have any idea about the ward that he left down there, and that could get him some pivotal information as the game goes on.
Yeah, but the biggest thing that it tells to me is that Hyami's figured out where Zach is. No, he's on the bot side of the map, and it doesn't actually hurt them too much. Since Homecoming and Artemis are already shoved into their own tower, they're not going to have to worry about playing too aggressively. They know that there's no real way Zach can gank this early on, since the stopwatches aren't available for anyone to try to trade the tower aggro. It's going to honestly just start favoring Lourdes for the early game.
I think so. So we're going to see the response actually here out of Zach. Does wander into the other side jungle. And look how many wards he leaves behind. Look at the vision. I don't know if those are all necessarily, obviously, can't be obviously all his wards. But just the side of Columbia leaving those wards in the bot side area just to make sure that Zach is safe here on this rotation. And has a pretty good idea that Hyami will probably be on the top side. Should signal to Stumpy that, hey, got to be playing possibly a little bit careful here. and it's very strong, smart macro coming out. I think it's very well-designed map pressure coming out of Colombia thus far. Possibly setting up for this early Mountain Drake too, as that is, one that goes by the wayside a little bit more, but some good bot side vision can lead to some, very convenient takes of those early Drakes.
Well, you never want to let it go to the wayside when you have a Tristana on the opposite side. With a Mountain Drake in tow, she takes down towers even faster, so it's going to be a little bit scary if Lourdes give that up for free.
Absolutely. That's obviously, and nothing on this map is small when considered the context of being given over to a team with as good a macro as Columbia College. So you can't just say, oh, that's not a big deal advantage. Oh, that's not a big deal advantage, because Columbia will start to stack those. I think Lourdes is very well aware of that. I'm very curious to see the way that they design a plan around it, leaving some nice vision on that bot side now. Actually did come to that dragon, so you might see a little bit of pressure building there, as the lanes are actually staying relatively quiet. We've not seen any gank attempts yet. We've not seen anything more than just a little bit of very cerebral jungle vision being laid out, and some very mind game focused paths from these guys.
So I think that's going to be all the more benefit for Colombia. They're the ones who want to delay a little bit. Yami needs to be a little bit more proactive. He's been trying to with the vision control. Look at how many wards he's put down. But it's been a little bit difficult. Chemo not utilizing the minion dematerializer that he picked up with his runes really effectively. He still has 3 of them, now 2 of them. When he gets them up, you want to try to spam those out so that you can start clearing the waves so much quicker into Misty Stumpy instead of trying to wait and bait it out.
Not only that, but take a look at Stumpy. Taking away the teleport early on will likely opt to teleport back himself, but just with the atomization buys coming out of Chemo on that Ornn, I would not be surprised if it's just a standard teleport right back to lane after the buy. Does get the phage. We'll be reasonably happy with that. But look at this. Chemo just teleported back to reset that wave, and now he's backing again, so a little surprising. Evan RL, want to talk about that. He keeps getting stunned up right at the edge of this rocket jump. Very cheeky play from this guy. That's the 3rd time we've seen him do it.
Great buffering of that ability, because people don't realize that, especially just the casual players, that you can actually buffer that with the stuns, with the animations, if you at the right time. If you do it consistently, it shows how effective you are with that champion.
I think so. I think so indeed. I really want to keep an eye on this top lane. I know I keep talking about it, but I just feel like I can't talk about it enough. Chemo on this Ornn. We talked about Camille and Ornn just day in, day out. That's all this guy plays. He drafted the Ornn now into a Gnar and a Braum, so I'd be thinking that this is a point where he's favoring a little bit of comfort over just actual composition here. Just everything he has to go through. This 22 doesn't make it, easy on this champion. And now he's starting to fall a little bit behind in CS. We saw him about 10 behind, did catch up pretty quickly there, though, so at the start of that thought, it was a little bit more poignant than at the end of it. But either way, I really do want to see a little bit more out of this top side, Yami and Chemo. I feel like they particularly need to be really balling out for their team right now.
Honestly, for me, Zach has been doing an amazing job with maintaining control over Hyami, putting down this ward line, consistently going into the jungle. Whenever he spots out Hyami on one ward, he's like, alright, I'm going to go on the opposite side of the map and lay down my vision. Look how much consistent vision is on that top side. Misty Stumpy doesn't have to worry about getting ganked anytime soon.
No, absolutely not. It's very smart, because we talked about that as a lane that would potentially want to be rolled very heavily by the likes of Lourdes University. So just making sure, keeping the wards down, spot any potential Grey Wolves coming up his way, and smart play from the Cougars on this one, just to keep things moving. 7.5 minutes here, and we've not seen a first blood. We've not seen too much pressure around anything. They're just really content to draw out this laning phase, and I'm surprised at actually how even it's staying relatively across the board. There's not a 10 CS differential anywhere on the map just yet.
Well, that's honestly the caliber of these players. It doesn't matter if you're in a counter matchup, doesn't matter if you're in a disadvantageous situation. Make sure to maintain that CS, always trying to keep up with your opponent. The only one that's going to start slowly getting out of control has to be the top lane. This is something on the Gnar. Always going to be able to poke out Chemo. Even when he gets into the Mega Gnar, he's got the kill potential with that phage, with the speed rush that he's able to get with the Hyper. Going to look a little bit detrimental for Chemo if he doesn't do something quickly.
I think so. We talked about this game being on a timer for the likes of Lourdes University. Now, no, obviously only 8 minutes in, so much can happen, and that doesn't really get too dangerous until the second, third item really starts to come around that benchmark for some of these champions on the Columbia roster. But letting them farm out peacefully is not the way to get there. So it's not all the pressure in the world, but that pressure certainly is mounting and becoming a little bit more palpable and I could see it being explosive. I really actually. Sorry, I got a little distracted there. I thought Hyami and Zach might be on the run at each other. Got a little excited, and then not much happened after that. So, going to be on the collision course, going to reset, and it's a vision game around Dragon as the story's unfolding.
It's crazy looking over the top side of the map with Misty Stumpy. He used the Mega Gnar, he used the Gnar to get the minions out from under the tower so he could farm those up a lot easier. And it honestly shows how great he is with that champion, why you want to put this prioritization onto his Gnar.
Yeah, Stumpy is one of those players that I feel like has just got to be so reassuring to have on your team, because it's always a question going up into lanes. But if you can just leave a rock-solid, consistent laner up into the top side and not have to worry about it, that opens up so many doors for the rest of your map, and especially for your jungler like Zach to play around. Problem is, we've not seen him play around it too much yet. Again, it's just a hard farm game in the jungle as well. Surprised at how consistent these two guys are staying between each other, especially as much as they are playing the counter jungling game. I really like that both junglers are very much on the ball about taking away opposing camps at the right time, timing some of that stuff. The problem is, it's happening on either side of the map so much that it's kind of just stayed equal for them. Neither is being able to find an advantage with it just yet.
Well, and the problem only is for Hyami, honestly. While sure, it looks good on paper that he's maintaining consistency, you don't want to maintain consistency against a Sejuani. You want to make sure that you're ahead of her, getting these lanes snowballing, getting some advantages around the vision, around the Mountain Drake. But really, Hyami's struggling to do that. Zach constantly out-mind gaming him. It's only going to start getting Columbia further and further ahead.
I'll tell you this, there's 20 gold separating these two junglers right now. So, actually with the Rift Scuttler, we'll propel that to about 100. But still, you're right, there's no specific pulling ahead just yet. A lot of pings coming down, as the Cougars are very aware of the positioning of Hyami right now. So, there will be no wolf lurking in the darkness on this one. They have the wards. It's going to be a vision game just to see how they clear it out, how they keep things moving in the right direction. As we talked about possibly the Mountain Drake as a first source of contention, as it doesn't look to be a game for first tower just yet, and first blood's still a mystery to us as well. I'd like to see some pressure mount around this dragon. Almost got Evan there. He was out.
So close.
Close.
But yeah, going back to the dragon, honestly, this is going to be where Lourdes need to start putting a little bit more of their eggs into the basket of trying to take it down. You want to get this away from Columbia. If you get the backs from Evan, honestly, they should have started pinging right onto the dragon saying, we can now take this, so we don't have to worry about the AD carry being here, and we can even bait out a fight. But Lourdes just seem to be a little iffy on whether or not they want to pull the trigger.
The biggest thing I gotta keep in mind here is that Chemo's teleport is still on cooldown, only about halfway done, whereas Stumpy does have that. So a dragon threat here for Columbia very likely means a 4v5 if Stumpy can keep this pressure up. Might need to refresh his vision a little bit, but you're not going to be too worried about a dragon fight anyway, because you'll know that the jungler is likely worried about the dragon instead of coming up to gank you. So I like that he's pushing this in. I like that he's making this option happen, but they do have to be worried now about a potential Hyami roam, have an answer for that, and get ready for potential Drake. There's a lot of pings coming down around that dragon for the side of Lourdes University.
And I'm not even just that for me. It's a lot of the control of the vision for Columbia that's more getting everything out of control for Lourdes, and they're having to ping. They're not sure whether or not they want to make these plays because they have no knowledge over Zach. They don't even know whether or not Julian's going to be able to roam. Misty Stumpy can go for a TP flank, like you mentioned, the TP still being up. It's going to be so dangerous for Lourdes to step up in any meaningful way. And if this game keeps going out, it almost is reminiscent of a game we saw in the LCK this last week where there wasn't a single kill until the 30-minute marks, but it was all KT completely owning their opponents.
Well, you talked about a lack of vision. You talked about they don't have the information. This is so crucial now because take a look at Zach. He's actually at the Rift Herald, just soloing this out. He's got about, he just took it actually. I was going to say he had about 2K, but he, with the combo, took it out instantaneously from about that point. So did just sneak that one away, and I don't think Lourdes had any idea that that happened.
No, they didn't. There's no vision. They only have wards in their own jungle. That's not what you want to do at 13 minutes in the game without having a single death yet. You need to maintain control. Hyami's just getting outplayed, in my opinion, by Zach.
Well, now that the Rift Herald is on the map, it does put a little bit of a timer on the first tower. I would at least hope so. So a little bit of incentive for the Columbia Cougars to group up and start to try to take a little bit of that action, because that's what we all came here for today, right? Is the action, the bloodbath that was hyped up on Twitter. And I'm personally waiting with bated breath to see this one actually blow off the hinges. I'm very hopeful for an explosive amount of fighting. It just seems like both these teams are trying to feel each other out right now, more so than anything.
Exactly, and that's exactly what I was going to say, because sometimes with these really high-caliber teams, it's not about the bloodbath, it's about the macro game, it's about the mind games that you're trying to play with your opponents, and both sides have so much respect for one another that you can obviously tell that with their gameplay. They're not trying to make these aggressive, greedy plays. They want to be smart, but we're not seeing Lourdes. They're grouping up bot. They might be looking for a tower dive.
Yeah, it looks like it, as the teleport is off cooldown and coming in. The Chain of Corruption not going to land. But the teleport channeled in from Stumpy. They say no, run that one out. Neither teleport actually came through. Nice shockwave. It's going to force the flash out, but that should be the end of it. Stumpy, in the meantime, finds the first tower in the top lane and gets the first real advantage that we see coming out for the Columbia Cougars.
And I wish we could have a replay to see what happened at the beginning. Homecoming went to try to engage with the Chain of Corruption and missed completely. Had that connected, that actually could have still been a potential for the dive to connect, but not landing the CC, not landing the chains that would have come with it, with Kiami on top of it, with Artemis right behind it. It knocked the wind right out of the sails from Lourdes.
Yeah, no, certainly. A little bit of a misplay too. Zach almost had the Sejuani ultimate in his favor there. Glacial Prison did not connect right at the edge, and Homecoming was able to flash out of that one. So that's actually going to favor very much so the side of the Columbia Cougars, getting the flash off of the very immobile Varus. But unless they're really willing to group back around this bottom lane, where there's so much vision for Lourdes right now, it's not going to be the biggest deal.
Well, the biggest deal for me is going to be the fact that the first brick gold did go over to Misty Stumpy. The two teleports being used by the top laners, it was taken advantage of by the Gnar. He knew that he could win out against Chemo, already had that tower down to 25% health. So he just was like, fine, I'll take the gold for the team, and now you even see that translated into 1,500 lead for Columbia.
Yeah, very much so. Small CS leads building elsewhere. Just some stuff to touch on. We do have about 20 to 25, given the wave pressure at the time in the top lane, favoring Columbia College for Mr. Stumpy. Misty Stumpy. He's also a Mr., but Misty Stumpy. The mid lane, a little bit swingy. We actually have Julian coming up on 5. He was down about 10 a few minutes ago, maybe 12 if I can't exactly remember what the numbers were, but to see him clutch that back a little bit does even things out there. And then Varus building up 15 to 20, depending on, again, how that way is favoring him. Homecoming actually going to be in a better position than I thought there, because the way this lane was going early on, I wouldn't have guessed that it was Homecoming to build a super strong lead.
He's just doing a good job in maintaining CS, but with the
double stun, there's the flag over the wall as well. They're rooted up. Evan RL trying to get out. Don't even need the Jarvan. First blood comes out, going over to Artemis. Homecoming will not be given that one, but it is the secure. And the assist does go over to Kiami, actually, even though he didn't really participate all that much. I don't know. We'll get.
He had the flag down, so that gives the increased attack speed to your teammates. And the bigger thing, though, losing your AD carry, this is going to be a bot lane tower now taken over for Lourdes, so they're going to get gold right back into their pockets and even get a little bit of a lead.
Oh, look at that. Weaver's about to slow down. That is a cheeky play.
Oh, no.
Look at that. He's coming in, forces the cleanse out. The tower will be in some trouble here. I don't think he can stick around. Stumpy as well on the roam in. I don't know if he's going to be able to make a huge difference as the Call of the Forge God does come out. It's set for Julian, forces the flash as All Arrow is trying to get in onto that one. Look at the flash from Zach, though, and there's Artemis to make it all happen. The Arrow does get the kill, and now Dean's trying to get in. Misty Stumpy with a nice flash Gnar in to get the damage down, but they're trying to salvage this fight, and it doesn't seem to be going well for Stumpy. He wanted in, now wants out, and Arrow obliges.
Wow, what... That is crazy for Lourdes to be able to turn that around. It looked like a well-choreographed dive coming in from Columbia, but they overestimated themselves a little bit. They forgot about the stopwatches that were still over there for All Arrow, dodging away from a lot of the CC that was being tried by Columbia. And then Chemo, that Call of the Forge God to slow down Julian so that they can get all the teammates in a position to turn it around and now get the Mountain Drake. It's crazy to see that kind of play coming out of Lourdes.
It was an absolutely great play from Chemo. You know, we say we wanted to see a lot out of him. Call of the Forge God, the first big thing he's done all game, but man, was it huge when they needed him. And now there's 3 unanswered kills to the side of Lourdes.
And it's one of those things with the Ornn, if you can lose lane, you're a tank. You don't need to get this CS lead. You don't need to win out the lane. As long as you're there for the team fights, you provide the CC necessary. Since Dean wasn't there to counteract the call of the Forge God, made it all the more lucrative for Chemo to go for that engage.
Absolutely. Really good heads-up play. And a Mountain Drake to boot, right? They took that one out and away with just a nice window of opportunity, had it when they needed it, and that's going to feel really good now for this Lourdes roster.
But I will say, even despite all that, they lost the mid tower. They lost the top tower. They're not ahead that much in gold. So Lourdes need to keep this pressure up. They've been winning these team fights and maybe getting more.
Ooh, well, there's the pressure you were talking about as the Cataclysm does come down. Julian trying to salvage this one, but Arrow likely going to be finding himself another kill, and the spree there is the big takeaway. Yami, really good play, and that's what we've wanted out of him all game. He just made it happen there, and it was beautiful to see. They knew that Julian didn't have his flash because of the previous fight that went down, so rolled right in. No summoners on this Immo Orianna. The Cataclysm may as well be a death sentence.
A little bit late, right, for Yami, but at the same time, it is always nice to see that he's now getting some of these ganks going for the team. Getting a few people ahead, especially all Arrow. Now 3-0 on this Talia. We got the Leandros, have the Morellonomicon, about a half item over his opponent, so as long as he's able to maintain this lead, he doesn't really need Hyami anymore. Hyami can go help out other lanes, maybe try to go onto Misty Stumpy in the near future.
Yeah, I think Stumpy's the one you gotta turn your eyes to as potential just to let Columbia College get back into this game. Not in his own mechanical play, not in anything that he's going to be, just inherently doing as the Gnar, but as the latent split push threat that he's going to turn into with that teleport. Because if he can just buy enough time for his side lanes to get rolling, farm out, keep that, I'm sorry, for his bot lane and mid laner to farm out, he obviously is a side lane, then, it really does bode well for what we talked about with Columbia's potential scaling. It's a tricky road, and it's one that they're not allowed to make too many mistakes on, but it's certainly on the table still for Columbia College.
It's also, you look at the build for Misty Stumping, going with the Black Cleaver, probably going to go with that, I'd say, the Frozen Mallet next to make sure that he can slow down Chemo consistently. Since Chemo, having gone up for the Righteous Glory, more teamfight-oriented builds, sure, but you need to start prioritizing a little bit around fighting back against Misty Stumpy. You don't want to outright lose. We saw him getting chased down there. Had there actually been the Frozen Mallet for Misty Stumpy, that would have been Chemo dying for sure.
Yeesh, very much so. And so, yeah, the Righteous Glory, an item that, will potentially raise some eyebrows, at least as a first build. Arrow's in some trouble. Hang on, Zach gonna get it. The forcing the cleanse and the flash does throw down the Glacial Prison, but not gonna be enough as Hyami is there. It's a big takeaway to take away both summoners from the mid laner, but I think Columbia wanted a little bit more out of that.
Exactly, but still, I'd take it. I would take it more than I would leave it. You get the cleanse, you get the flash, sure, you lose the shockwave and the glacial prison, but those aren't on nearly as long of a cooldown, so you're going to be able to get him soon. Maybe get some shutdown gold over for Julian in the near future. But it's nice to see at least some proactive play coming out of Columbia. They've been finding themselves in a little bit of a hole, but as long as they're maintaining this deficit, they're not getting too far out, and they're allowing Misty Stumpy to do this. Yeah. They're not going to be in too much of a worry.
That's your tank if you're Lourdes. That is, your number one tank is Ornn. Yeah, you have the Taric and you have the J4, and they can beef out a little bit, especially the team fights. You love those health bars. But to just let the top laner do good chunk of damage like that to your tank, it doesn't bode as well for that side lane matchup. And the CS is really the story that we need to focus on as that's expanding, because it's almost 40 now in the favor of Stumpy. And this is just the longer he's left down here, the better he's going to feel about this. Good Lord. He is taking it to Chemo.
I'm almost expecting him just go for the dive at any moment. He has the damage needed. He's trying to make sure that he's getting the hyper proc so that he can consistently poke out Chemo. Maybe even baiting out the teleport eventually, because this tower is going to fall since Chemo just went back.
Yeah, I think they got that one out pretty much no contest. That's going to feel really good if you are Stumpy to pick that one up. Chemo had the teleport, but likely knew it wasn't the right call just with that tower being in the position it was and the way the trades have been going for him too. So that's a pretty free takeaway. Columbia, 3 towers, only 1 answered back, and that brings a gold despite the 4-kill deficit into Columbia's favor, only by a couple hundred. But it's actually going to be evened out deadpan. So
yeah,
either way, that's going to feel really good for Columbia just to have all the outer towers now off the map.
Well, and even if Chemo teleported in, say he teleported in, he saves the tower. He wasted his teleport, and that would show for Columbia that they can go right onto the Baron. That's what they're trying to bait around. Look at the vision they're trying to maintain control of. They're trying to make sure that they're forcing Lourdes around this objective, because they do have really great potential to fight in close quarters. The Shockwave, the Glacial Prison, even if they get Misty Stumpy to rotate up there, he can get a nice 4-man Gnar ultimate if they're all grouped into one spot.
The flash for all arrows still not off cooldown from that last engage. The cleanse, possibly, if the engage does not happen soon, will come right off. But otherwise, that's a big play, that spell that you want to play around and have at your disposal. So Columbia know it. They're trying to bait it, and they can leave Stumpy in the bot lane for as long as possible. And we talked about this. They've slowed the game down really well. They don't mind slowing the game down, because the longer it goes, the more it favors them. They're not too worried about these 4 early kills unanswered, although this might be a problem for Zach. He does find himself in a little bit of trouble, gets out scot-free, and actually a cheeky little stun back onto Hiyami there says, yeah, not that afraid.
I wouldn't say scot-free, does lose the flash, so that's going to be on a massive cooldown. That could have been a lot more useful for a flash, say, Glacial Prison sort of bait, trying to go on to All Arrow or Homecoming, try to pick them off in a cheeky sort of way. But unfortunately, not having that does give a little bit of a benefit over to Lourdes, at least until All Arrow gets his flash back up himself.
Yeah, I think so. The engage potential there out of Zach is a very big one, and so yeah, without the flash, definitely going to be a little bit stunted as well. I think they rely a lot on Stumpy here for their potential engage with the Gnar, and so as he's split pushing in the side lanes, it does make it seem like you only have a couple really good options, mostly off of the back of Dean and Julian, and both of those are very high risk spells that are a little bit harder to land than the likes of a Glacial Prison or, the Mega Gnar right on in, So
this was a big misplay coming in from Lourdes just now. Hiyami showed bot side. That, for Columbia, signified that they can go and maintain control of the vision around the Baron. And look what just happened. It was really close. It was back and forth between Lourdes and Columbia. But Columbia see Hiyami bot side, they're like, fine, we'll just take all your wards away. We'll put all our own up and force you to now have to be into these tight quarters, giving Zach time to go back, get some more items, and get into the fight.
And they sneak a free Infernal Drake off the rip, too. Stumpy was right there on it, Probably very recently had seen Hiyami on the bottom side of that one, but was not afraid of any of that. Maybe spotted them a little bit up on the top. Now here comes Hiyami, looking for Evan RL. Gets over the Weaver's Wall, so he'll be okay, but Dean and Zach potentially in a little bit of trouble. Evan RL is there. Julian can't get it.
Stumpy!
In aggressively, and they find Homecoming. He goes down. Arrow's going to be the next one to fall under the tower. That's a shutdown coming out for Misty Stumpy. Finds that one, and a nice double stun keeps the members of Lourdes right where Columbia wants him. Chemo over the wall. There's the hunt coming down from Evan RL. He's trying to find Hiyami, and now it's going to be Chemo trying to stay anything he can from this by killing Dean, potentially Stumpy, but I think they'll get the better of him as Evan RL with the rocket jump in for the ace. Cleans house for his team, only losing Julian, finding an ace in return.
Not quite sure what Lourdes was thinking in that situation. They thought they had the pick, but the moment you notice that Zach's in the area, you see how the members of Columbia are backing off. You don't go for that engage. You don't try to force it. They tried so hard to see if they could pick off anyone and got themselves into that tight corridor I had warned them not to get into. It made it so easy for Misty Stumpy to teleport in. That Mega Gnar was beautiful coming in from him to set up everything so that it was an easy sweep coming in for Columbia.
Stumpy is the glue that is holding this game together in outstanding fashion for the side of Columbia College. All members doing their parts, but he is particularly shining throughout, and 2 kills in that fight going over very well deservedly to him. The other 3 very easily distributed among the remaining members that aren't the support, so I think they're going to be pretty happy with that one too. All members of Columbia College are going to be feeling particularly great, especially with a Baron buff to boot. Julian, the only member not Baroned up, but he's not the split push threat anyway, so they have a lot of options to maximize here. Stumpy, dodging that, going to be okay. Trying to get in onto Homecoming, wants to find the kill here because he knows he very likely can't get out alive. There is Hiyami there, though, to seal his fate, knocks him back.
Oh, wait!
Cataclysm flashes out, actually, and it does only cost him a summoner.
Man, that was some great play from Misty Stumpy, outplaying Lourdes, showing why we've been hyping up him for quite some time now. Using that stopwatch, he still had that for how long now? 28 minutes holding on to that, never having once used it. Now, finally being able to pop it, gets himself out with only losing his flash, and his team on the other side is able to get this tier 2 in the bot side. Probably going to then rotate, get the tier 2 in mid, keep taking down these outer towers, get more and more income for the team.
That is the ideal split push draw. Not one, not two, but three members of the enemy team to deal with you. Makes it so easy for Evan and Dean to take away that tier 2 tower in the bottom lane. It was only Chemo, and he's been struggling against Stumpy individually. Evan and Dean are just as much of a threat when it comes to one champion, Chemo there, so they kept him very much on the ropes, took the tower for free. And with this Baron pressure, they're right back at it. Look, Stumpy's back in the top lane again.
Oh no, Chemo might have got himself caught out.
Yeah, I think he could be in a little bit of trouble here. They'll take at least half the health bar, but the backup from Lourdes gonna keep him okay. The tower, can't say the same for that because I do believe the Columbia reset has this thing dead to rights.
This is Columbia's macro knowledge in the game. This was demonstrated all throughout the first 15 minutes of the game where we didn't even see them get a single kill. Sure, they didn't get a death either, but it's them trying to maintain control of the map.
Oh, here comes the call of the Forge God. It is the engage. It's a double knockup coming down. Zac is down.
From Lourdes.
They're going to try to get in through. Kiami getting what he needs to with the Cataclysm there. They find Zac. He is down. Stumpy the next target potentially. We'll see what the backup members of Columbia can do. I think it's a free pick, but Chemo on the run out should be okay.
Yes, of course, it is a free pick onto Zac, but doesn't really help you get control of the map. You got to get more than just one for Lourdes at this point. They're slowly and surely sinking like a ship, losing all control of the map. Look at the vision control from Columbia. That is so much blue throughout that mini-map. There's no way for Lourdes to leave their own base without having to risk going and face-checking a brush into the wombo combo that is Columbia College.
Yeah, no, now with the remainder of their outer turrets all gone, only the 3 inners and 2 nexus remaining for the side of Lourdes University, the map is Columbia's playground. They've spotted it up with the wards. Hayami's trying to do a really good job just to clear things back out here, get them a little bit of breathing room in their own jungle, but it's all on their top side, and bot side is likely the next area of focus with the Drake coming up in just about a minute. I don't think Columbia are going to let that one go to the wayside. I don't really know if you can contest it if you're Lourdes.
It's Infernal as well, so it's going to give much more damage over to the side of Columbia, so of course they want to take that. Helps out Misty Stumpy in these trades into Chemo a lot more, but I don't even know if they care about that too much. They might be able to send one member to solo that out, while the rest of them continue the siege onto the base of Lourdes.
Yeah, I think so. We've already seen, Stumpy taking the dragons away from himself. We saw Zac taking the Rift Herald away. It's a one-member job at this point if you are Columbia, so they can really do with this Drake as they please, and I really doubt it'll be too contested. It's just a matter of how they're going to maintain that pressure, because it does look like now the side of Lourdes are grouping together, trying to make sure that they don't ever get caught out one member alone. That could be absolutely devastating. So, playing together, they're going to send Zac down to handle the Drake, it looks like. Possibly the bot lane of Columbia as well, just to make sure it all happens. They have the pushing waves, they have the time to do that, and they have enough vision that it's just going to be a quick, clean Infernal, and then back to the grind.
For Columbia, it's going to be a little bit difficult for them to be able to crack open the base of Lourdes without a Baron. So if Lourdes are smart about this, they're going to try to make sure that they don't ever give ample opportunity to Columbia to do that. They got to make sure that they're always maintaining position around Misty Step. You don't want to send too many members to try to deal with them, of course, because then Columbia can easily go on to a different objective. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you know where he's at, that he can't teleport flank you, and get a really good Mega Gnar ultimate into the wall on 4 or 5 members.
Yeah, no, certainly not. Gotta be careful of how you play these next few minutes out, because they are so crucial if you are Lourdes. The turtle method is going to help them. It is going to help them get back into this game, get the items that they need, but we talked about the scaling for Columbia, too, being so crucial. So it kind of becomes a question of now, what is the right method? Is it the pick? Is it a couple picks? Is it just a Hail Mary team fight for Lourdes? Because they got to think of something, and reasonably quick. The longer this game goes, the more it favors Columbia, even still.
I mean, pretty much you got to have a giant target on to Evan and Julian. You need to take out these 2 members. Evan probably preferably, because with him alive, they can take down these towers so quickly, end the game right off of one team fight. But with Julian, it's not necessarily as big. Sure, he can land a massive shockwave and really switch things around. That's going to also be on the setup of Evan trying to get the positioning. So I say try to get a pick, but make sure it's onto the right members. Take out some of these carries. That is now a Mercurial Scimitar alongside of the Infinity Edge and double electrified items coming in for Evan.
Yeah, no, you're very likely not going to have the easiest time killing Evan at this point, especially you slap that Mercurials behind a big old tanky Braum shield, and they're in pretty good shape. They do want to get onto the backline. Kiami goes for it, but they're going to settle for Dean. Arrow takes that one away. The teleport coming out maybe a little bit unnecessary. And Chemo didn't cancel, actually. He's going to call in the call of the Forge God, but they're trying to turn it around. It's a knock-up now. Coming on to Zach. He does go down. Homecoming gets the credit for that kill, but a Shockwave finds four.
Evan's still alive.
Chemo is gone. The Evan RL very much low. Has to hop out of this one. The Weaver's Wall coming down. Arrow wants to find it. He flashes in and does. Now, Kiami trying to corner in onto Julian. We'll see what they can make happen here. I think Julian's okay. They're
look at Misty, though.
Get out, but look at this. Stumpy, yeah, in the bot lane. Left all alone to his devices. They've sent Homecoming back. But the tower does go down, and it's the Baron now that the side of Lourdes will have to decide if they go for. There's still 30 seconds on Evan, 15 on Zach. It's a tough position to be in as the split push is building.
They can't go for the Baron. They don't have Homecoming. They sent him to try to deal with Misty Stumpy, and Misty Stumpy knows he can 1v1 him.
Oh, this is big. Stumpy is going low, though. Without the Mega Gnar, this could be a problem. Now Julian as well having to run out of this one. Dodges the stun with some masterfully fancy footwork, and as Dean is there, he may just look to turn the tide. Stumpy going mega as he rocks back. They found the turret. Top lane going down as a nice consolation prize for Lourdes University, but they did not get the window that they needed, all thanks to Stumpy's split push.
Honestly, that was all on Stumpy, because that was an amazing team fight coming in from Lourdes. They got a flank. It looked really bad. I don't know why Chemo decided he wanted to go right into the middle of everyone with the teleport, but it baited everyone to try to engage onto him. Evan was never able to get into a position where he was going to get the DPS necessary. There's so many low health bars on Lourdes that he could have cleaned up, but he had to stay so far back because he was getting chunked out by Arrow, who was making sure to shove him away. It was a great play from Lourdes, but they just couldn't capitalize.
Yeah, Arrow getting a little bit more dangerous, though. 2 kills to boot. Homecoming as well gets himself a very much needed kill. So that is going to be, you know, a little bit of a reassurance. Hey, look, as the fight goes on, but look at this. They're mounting near the Baron. Stumpy doesn't have the teleport, so they would need to start it quickly and decisively. If they do, they just clear the vision, pull off the split push. But now in a 5v5 situation, this actually may favor Lourdes. They go in for Julian. That is the Flash Cataclysm.
Shockwave!
There, the knockup as well. That's going to be absolutely taken away, but it's not free, as it did cost Kiami his life, and now the chase is...
Oh, man!
What a Narnock! They do find one. It is going to be Artemis going down, and now Chemo in some real trouble himself. Tries to flash out, but the damage is there. Evan RL untouched on this backline, and Homecoming with a full health bar himself, but can't find the damage.
And this is the difference... That's the difference between a 4v5 fight. That's insane for Columbia. It was so different the moment Misty Stumpy shows up. It looked like it should have been a easy cleanup for Lourdes. They had the pick that they needed. They got right onto Julian, but Misty Stumpy is massive on this Gnar.
Oh, here comes the Weaver's Wall to separate. They're going to try to leave Zach in there while they do the damage. Dean's health bar is falling low, but the Baron does go down. Zach easily capable of finishing it off himself. And that's actually just going to back right off. They know they can't push out any further. Members coming up on both sides. Only 10 more seconds of death on Chemo, the last one to fall there. So they will reset, and that's going to be a Baroned up Columbia now.
Oh, that's going to be scary for Lourdes. They've been doing a great job at mounting a defense into Columbia, but... everything's just slowly but surely going the way we expected it to. The late game scale and composition paying dividends for Columbia. Not just that though, Misty Stumpy, such a god on this Gnar. I can't say it enough with how amazing he's been playing on it.
Yeah, no, they definitely knew what they were doing when they picked that one up out and away. I believe Gnar might have been their second pick.
Yes.
No. It was?
Yes.
Okay, so... obviously, the Sejuani for Zach, the top of the rotation. They wanted that one, and he's played very well to facilitate his team's movements. Hasn't been the flashiest, but certainly has been a cornerstone of his team's ability to maneuver throughout the map. Stumpy, however, on the Gnar, been the all-star that we've been looking for. And I just can't praise it enough. Evan RL looking great himself, 420 CS, actually met pretty well by Homecoming. Both of these guys are farming very hard into this 37-minute game, and now the Elder Drake possibly going to call off Stumpy. He does have the teleport, opts to use it immediately. There is no bluff that they're calling. Elder Drake, though, half down.
I don't know if you want to do this, Lourdes. You're trying to bait in a fight that you can't really win. You got the teleport out of Misty Stumpy, but how are you going to escape from this one? Are you going to go for it?
Dragon is going low, but there's the engage. They're coming up. They knock up Chemo. He is not down yet. Zach, on the other hand, maybe going down the call. The force a lot of damage. and he does go down, favoring Evan RL, and then falls Chemo. They're going to be trying to get onto Hiyami here. He does go down. Artemis, the next one to fall.
It's a triple.
Finds a lot, and look at it. Evan RL is just popping off. That is the ace. That is certainly going to be the game as Columbia College with the Baron, with the Elder Drake, are just going to pour down mid.
Yeah, death timers are way too long for Lourdes to be able to get back into this one. You have Evan still alive. Not only that, he's got a Elder Drake on top of that. These towers are gonna fall. This should be game 1 for Columbia.
That was the dragon that Lourdes started. They wanted that. They thought this is the play that we're going to be able to make something happen on, and Columbia College sniffed it out absolutely. Played no games with it. Stumpy started his teleport the second the team knew about it, and they have turned it into such a play. The Baron power is there. The Elder Drake power is there. Stumpy, Evan, and Julian playing that fight so well. Zach being the sacrificial lamb for his team, but it means that Columbia takes game number 1 in convincing fashion. 13k gold lead, so many towers, so much map play, and though the kills were close, Columbia stretched it elsewhere.
Honestly, it was just great to watch that kind of gameplay coming in from Columbia, but even Lourdes themselves, they did a great job at mounting a defense into Columbia. This game was so dead even for so long, 15 minutes of back and forth, nobody dying for the longest time, and then when the team fight started, it looked like it was going to go Lourdes. Then somehow, Columbia making great calls with their macro play, making sure to get these towers consistently, and then it forced Lourdes into a position, whether they fight or flight, and sadly, even if you fought, wasn't going to go too well with the scaling picked up from Columbia.
We saw it time and again from Columbia. Things looked like they were going Lourdes' way, and then they just flipped the switch. And off the back of the clean play out of all of Columbia's members, they just turned it into such an outstanding game. 431 CS for Evan, 418 for Homecoming. The ADs played their hearts out this game, man.
They really did. They did a great job. There's nothing I can really fault Homecoming on except for that one early fight that they tried to go for with the dive where he missed the Chain of Corruptions. Had that landed, honestly, it could have given a much more advantage in the early game for the snowball for Lourdes. But it's not the worst thing. That happens. You don't always land every single skill shot that you try to take. But honestly, it was a lot on not the AD carries this game. It was on the top laners. Misty Stumpy completely owning that map. Chemo was almost a non-factor. Sure, he had some really good call of the Forge Gods, but when you can't mount up to the split push potential of Misty Stumpy, you are forced to send 3 members, forced to send Homecoming to try to deal with it. That's not what you want to have when you're trying to bait around a Baron.
Well, it is a best of 3 series, so there are going to be potential answers to these very big questions that we're asking here coming out for the side of Lourdes. They've seen now the threat that Columbia is. They know the powerhouse of Stumpy's split push. How are they going to respond? We'll find out pretty soon. We're going to give them some time to talk it over as we do kick it to break, but don't go anywhere. We've got game 2, possibly a third, with how close that one was at times, coming up after this. Stick around.
To myself, what a wonderful world.